Hey, welcome into the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Mac, as always with my co-host, Landon. And congrats to you, making it into the second round of the fantasy playoffs. An excellent achievement, but the job is not done yet. Landon and I are going to break down your waiver wire for this week and what you can do to maximize your chances of winning. If you have some specific questions for us, please get us on social media on Instagram or Twitter at snap_fantasy. Landon, hopefully you had a good playoff quarterfinals. How you feeling, and who are you looking to add this week?
I'm feeling great, Mac. This is it. This is the time that we've all been waiting for, everyone. If you have also specific starts or sits, drop it in the comments. We will answer you to figure out your tough starts and decisions. I'm looking to add probably tight ends and defenses this week. And that might be the same to our listeners. It might be tough because they have their starting running backs. They've got their starting quarterback or receiver. And really, they just have missed every time on a tight end or defense. We will cover that today. We'll cover everything today. But that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest news here has to be Jalen Hurts. If you took a shot on him this week, you were probably very pleasantly surprised. And the New Orleans Saints just weren't ready for Jalen Hurts to be as mobile as he was. The Saints won the second half of that football game, but it was too little, too late. Damage had already been done. The question is, can you roll out Jalen Hurts in Week 15? Do you believe that Jalen Hurts will transform this offense and give life like he did in Week 14? Is Miles Sanders boosted because of Jalen Hurts? Those are the questions. Landon, what do you think about Jalen Hurts? Are you looking to add him and stream in Week 15, or are you kind of out? You don't believe the upside?
I think he is a multi-talented quarterback. I think he has a lot of potential. It's surprising that he threw 30 times in that game. He had a great game, and he is mobile. He's dynamic. I think you can definitely roll out Jalen Hurts. If you squeaked by and you had a guy like Matt Ryan, you know what? Sit Matt Ryan down, drop him, and then just roll with Jalen Hurts, and you got to go for the gusto when it comes to a guy like this.
If you were someone who lost a running back this week, or Myles Gaskin, you're that Myles Gaskin owner, and you maybe took a shot on DeAndre Washington. It was actually Lynn Bowden Jr., the rookie, that jumped out in this one, 9 targets. And Lynne Bowden came into the league as a prolific pass-catching option, and he was with the Raiders. They let him go, and he found his way to the Miami Dolphins. Myles Gaskin will not be in the backfield for Week 15, and so we're probably looking again to DeAndre Washington and Lynn Bowden. Is there any stock or any faith that Lynn Bowden can be a reliable target for you in the semifinal of fantasy playoffs, Landon?
You've got to be really hoping if you're going to roll out Lynn Bowden. I think I maybe saw him attempt to pass, but then pulled it down to run it. I think he was a college quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, but I may be wrong on that one.
No, you're right.
Lynn Bowden, it's got to be if he's eligible at the running back position as well as the wide receiver spot. We haven't finished our rankings yet. He's a flex play at best. I don't think I'm going to rely on those 9 targets again. We'll have to see about the status of Devontae Parker this week as well. He went out early with a leg injury. If that's the case, I could see, Lynn Bowden be in a flex play. And in a pinch, he might give you like a 6 to 7 point floor.
Nelson Agholor is a really interesting option this week. Over the last 4 games, he's averaging about a 70% snap share as well as 9 targets a game. He's scored 2 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks as well. Has the big play, has the attention of Derek Carr, and Derek Carr has been a pretty good option for you from a fantasy perspective, even though it hasn't seemed like it. Flashback to that Raiders-Jets game a couple of weeks ago that they won on a miraculous play to Henry Ruggs in the end of the 4th. But Nelson Agholor has some appeal. He kind of reminds me right now of the way that Cole Beasley is being used for the Buffalo Bills, just a reliable part of the offense, filling in gaps where needed. I'm willing to put Nelson Agholor in if I'm like a DJ Moore owner and I lost him, and there's several others in that position. Landon, do you share the same sentiment with Nelson Agholor?
Totally. I feel much more confident rolling out Agholor this week. He's been consistent throughout the year. It's not the Henry Ruggs show. I know that Waller is the pass catcher there. He's the number one target for Derek Carr, but I do believe Aguilar is the number one wide receiver. How much is that worth? Sometimes it's a lot, and if he could catch the ball better, he would be a locked and loaded start every week, but he's hit and miss when it comes to that.
Yeah, certainly. I feel like right now it's maybe one of the better plays on the waiver wire, seeing as it's week 15 and it's bleak. One guy that I think will come to the top of your waiver wire that I don't think that you should spend any fab on is Jeff Wilson Jr. Wherever you look right now, CBS Sports, couple others, you're probably thinking, oh, Jeff Wilson's the play. I don't think so. We kind of thought, hey, Raheem Mostert's the guy we can trust this week. All signs kind of point to a workload, and that wasn't the case. And this has been a reoccurring theme for the San Francisco 49ers. We've seen Jerick McKinnon take over. We've seen JaMychal Hasty have a little bit of a flash. We've seen Raheem Mostert. We've seen Jeff Wilson before. It's really something that's hard to predict. And while we'd like to chase the leader in rushing yards from the previous week, I just don't think that we can do so in week 15. I don't know. I can't speak for Landon, but I'm definitely not willing to spend any fab on Jeff Wilson Jr.
Not into it. Mac, there might be some people watching this right now thinking they could beat us in fantasy football. You know what?
Probably right.
You have the opportunity to do that. Now, we do a listener league every single year, and if you share this podcast or this YouTube channel with your friends and send us a DM on who you got to subscribe, you get entries into the draw to play against us. We will be announcing it. Make sure you follow us on socials at snap_fantasy. Get us on there, and you have a chance to beat us and play against us. It's going to be a tough go. It'll be tough, but let us know if you want to get in our listener league. That's snap_fantasy.
Bring it on. One more guy to talk about here, Russell Gage. Now, Russell Gage was a big piece in the Falcons offense this week, also throwing a touchdown. And he threw a dime. Like, I've got to say, he put one up there, connected with Calvin Ridley on like a 50-yard touchdown pass, was beautiful. But will he be a piece of the offense, not to the extent of a passer, but a receiving option for the Falcons with Julio Jones set to make a return? That's kind of the big question here, Landon. I'm not willing to put any faith into starting Russell Gage. The process that I went through this week didn't really point to him having a big game, and he did. I was wrong. I was totally wrong. He was, 5 for 7, 82 yards, and a passing touchdown.
Yeah, that's hard it's hard to project, Mac.
Yeah.
It's you know, it's one of those things that I think he's worth an ad right now. Whether or not you're going to start him, that's still to be determined. We'll probably find out later in the week on Julio and his status. So in a week where you don't have to really compete with a lot of players, and maybe you have a defense that you're not going to play again, adding Russell Gage isn't the worst thing you could do, especially if you're kind of desperate or banged up at the wide receiver position.
In shallower leagues, if you play in an 8 or 10 team league, you might see Cam Akers or T.Y. Hilton sitting on your waiver wire. And these are two guys that you just can't be without right now. Cam Akers has 59 rushing attempts in the last 2 weeks. You saw the big game on Thursday, and you've got to get him. All right, if you're in a spot right now to win your league, Cam Akers might be a league winner. And T.Y. Hilton has been lighting it up. That's 3 straight games. 2 touchdown performance. He's got the attention of Phillip Rivers. He's got the downfield threat. He's got to be a guy you add. It's not going to apply to those 12, 14 team leagues, but in your shallower leagues, make sure that those guys are not on your waiver wire. Definitely playing defense and picking them up, even if you don't want to start them, is a really, really solid move. I want to flip it over to defenses, Landon. This is the part of the year where teams are so good into the playoffs, and if you stream the right defense, you might win a matchup. I got to toot my own horn here. In 2 matchups this week, I started the Washington football team. They put up 23. I ended up winning a matchup by 9 and by 5, and that was the difference for me. So who are your defensive pickups for week 15 and maybe onward?
There's a few, Mac, that I like. You mentioned to me off camera the Bills are in a really good spot against the Broncos. I don't mind the Packers. The Packers against the Panthers are in an interesting spot. Now, if Christian McCaffrey is back, that might be a difficult play. But if he's out for the rest of the season, I think it's a decent play at the defense. The Buccaneers are just over 50% owned, and they play the Falcons. And we saw Matt Ryan just was under pressure constantly. So I really like the Buccaneers as well this week.
I think you're going to see the Cleveland Browns available in a lot of spots because of their Monday night matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, who still hold a lot of fear on the offensive side of the ball. So maybe people pivoted off the Browns on a Monday night game, weren't willing to stream that matchup. And if you look at the next 2 weeks, semifinals, we got the Giants. Finals, fantasy finals, we have the Jets. Giants and Jets the next 2 weeks. That's as juicy as it gets. And I'd be willing to spend up and lock in that defense for the next 2 weeks. Like I said, could be the difference between winning and losing. And I'm going to go in and put my faith into the Browns defense to take me to the ship.
I like it, Mac. Now, we do have to talk about the tight end position. It's not a great position. I mean, it's asking for a friend because it seems like I can't get it right at the tight end spot, Mac. I'm wrong every single week. It doesn't matter what it is. Under the 65% threshold, we have Jared Cook, Logan Thomas, Tyler Higbee. Now, Tyler Higbee has a matchup against the Jets. Would you recommend adding him?
The last couple weeks have looked somewhat decent for Tyler Higbee. He's getting some reliable work. We haven't seen him get into the end zone in quite some time. So I kind of see this as a very low tight. He doesn't even really have tight end one upside, which if you don't get a top 6 tight end performance, it's not really worth talking about. So sometimes a tight end 1, which is like a top 12, that 6 to 12 range is like under catching a touchdown. And so I don't think Tyler Higbee has that upside that you're looking for in week 15. However, I feel like Logan Thomas is a guy that does. And if Mike Gesicki happens to be on your waiver wire, I really do think that is a spot that you should go. One of the few receiving options for the Dolphins that Tua has had a clear connection with.
Definitely. You might be wondering about Irv Smith Jr. He had 4 targets, 4 receptions for 63 yards and a touchdown. We're not really sure on the condition of Kyle Rudolph. I do like Irv Smith as a young prospect, but I think it's going to be a tough thing to rely on, getting limited targets when the 2 pass catchers there are clearly Thielen and Jefferson. So he's a desperate play for me against Chicago this week, but again, the tight end landscape is bleak.
Very bleak indeed. Listen, we appreciate you coming by. We are on the road to 1,000 YouTube subscribers. If you're new to the channel and you liked what you saw in this video, consider doing 2 things for us. A thumbs up goes a long way, and clicking that subscriber button really does help out the channel. As Landon said, if you have your individual questions, drop them in the comments below and we will get back to you 100%. No comment goes unanswered on this channel. Good luck in week 15. We hope that you get that W and get on to the fantasy championship week. Have a good one, and we'll see you later.